Hello and welcome to today's episode of a New American Town podcast presented by Oztrails. I'm your host, Stevie Emmons, and today we have a special guest. Many of our listeners in the community probably know him. He's at almost every race and honestly travels around the whole country and probably world, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody, we have Nat Ross here joining us today.
Super happy to be here today, and also representing our business partner, Kyla Templeton, who is absent today, but is in here in spirit with us. So,
absolutely. Today we are here with Nat to talk about Bike School Bentonville. And before we get started, would you like to give a small introduction of yourself?
Yeah, let's just say that my wife and I, Amy Ross, belong here in Northwest Arkansas. It is our home almost going on 4 years. And man, how quickly the things have changed, and it's great to be a part of all the actions. We are cyclists. That's in our DNA. That's something that we can relate to a lot of the community for. So we've been very happy to be relocated here from Colorado, and all things are great in our world.
Love to hear it. So as I mentioned, we are here talking about Bike School Bentonville. Can you tell our listeners, what is that and how did you get it started?
Yeah. So Bike School Bentonville is essentially for all folks that want to better their skills on a bike, especially a mountain bike, whether that be a junior, somebody that is young and up and coming and on a little teeny bike. We basically pick up where striders take off.
Okay.
So if a kid is zooming around in the parking lot and ready for some actual pedal strokes, that's where we'll pick up the ball and take them out actually onto the trails when they're ready for it, and just session with their friends, get to be familiar with the bike and enjoy pedaling, and then next thing you know, they become part of the community.
And what made you want to start Bike School Bentonville?
I think there was a need for it here in terms of the interest and just the amount of trails. It was time to start programming with what the infrastructure had provided. So a lot of the kids have after-school programs. Buddy Pegs was around. Strider moved into town, and all this momentum for the next step where the parents aren't necessarily the ones taking them out on their experiences, teaching them. So we kind of modeled it after like a resort model where you would have a ski school or a snowboard school where you can program that with the public school districts, with private schools, with church groups, with anybody in the community that wants to have an experience on the trails or on a bicycle. That's where we decided, Kyla and I sat down and with our spouses and everything and said, there is a need for this here. Let's get it going. Let's call it Bike School Bentonville. And here we are.
And have you gotten a lot of traction? Is it going well so far?
It is amazing. So as we look forward to like the school programming, which comes up again once school session starts, we'll have, again, 10-week sessions, shorter sessions, weekends, privates, individual guided instructions. It's basically like an a la carte menu that someone can log on to the bikeschoolbentonville.com website and pick and choose what services they would like for their family, for their kids, for themselves, all the way to e-bikes if folks want to start out in that avenue because it's been 15, 20 years since they've ridden a bike, but they know that, hey, there's something going on here special. I want to be a part of it. Let's get on an e-bike because we're not very fit.
Yeah.
And let's get the instruction needed to enjoy the sport.
Love that. Now, I heard you say a little bit ago that this programming is open to a lot of different people. Could you get a little more specific on who your programs are aimed towards?
Yeah, so specifically like our bread and butter is trail kids, which is a 7 to 13-year-old age demographic where the most success can happen and development in general, where we're taking them along an experience where they can literally someday ride on their own and enjoy and ask to go for a mountain bike ride with their parents and invite their parents on a ride or a lot of different pieces within that 7 to 13-year-old age group is magic. However, we have younger students in bike school as well, and we can go all the way down to whatever age a parent is willing to enjoy that experience with
Nice.
over like 3 to 4.
Wow.
If they have that jump start, if they've already had they've been out on the trails. And we have spots like where we typically start our programming and where we meet every day for trail kids. It's very beginner friendly. It's amazing for all sorts of skill developments and progressions. So right there in Slaughter Pen, they can access the trails. Greenway, we can do all sorts of surfaces, including grass to start off with, and then develop the skills. So we do skills assessments before we even put the student and the young rider into a group. And sometimes it's a group of 2, but we basically try to keep it with 4 riders per instructor. So we've got instructors, which they're our core. So they've come throughout their experiences. Some of them grew up in town. A lot of them have moved to town for what these places are. We have instructors coming from Fayetteville, driving down to teach classes with us. And we also have a lot of the young rippers around that can take, if someone wants to learn how to get air or to better balance themselves on some of the trails that we have while they're jumping, we can do those pieces as well, because we've got a lot of talent within our instructors. So the instructors, they're amazing. We have a vast group of instructors that have got all the certifications, their medical instruction, and all the programming to be able to provide whatever type of entry level someone's coming into this experience with. So for sure beginners, also intermediates, but if someone wants to do a jump clinic, then we can provide that as well. And that's something that is very unique to this area, where we have all types of riders that can ride a bike, but maybe there's a lot of trails here that give them some troubles, or they want to get better experience on, and Bike School Bentonville can provide those services.
Love it. That's amazing. So you've talked about who can participate in your programming, what types of programming there are. So can you touch on a little bit, what are some things that people don't necessarily see live on the front end of things that usually happen behind the scenes, such as planning your programs, trying to recruit students to enroll in your programs, things like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of our end is the community structure that we've built with our instructors. So it's the training, it's the curriculum, it's the development of our instructors as well, because a lot of them want to become more skilled in the teaching, the instruction side of things, and also all the way up to coaching or coaching for racing, but want to, we're providing the platform for them to become better instructors, more skilled instructors, and also challenge themselves. So behind the scenes for us, we're constantly trying to provide the utmost support for all of our instructors so that they enjoy riding as well, because it is a job, and for most of them it is a part-time job, but we want them to be at the top of their game and want to be out there with us as well. So we're highly visible. We're the ones in orange out there. You can hear the kids laughing. We definitely have a good time when we're out there riding. But the most important part for Kyla and I is to make sure that the community is welcoming if an instructor is coming in from out of town with experience. And we certainly like to meet anybody that's thinking about moving into town or looking at opportunities in town. It is a nice part-time job, and it keeps them, the office is amazing outside, as you know.
Nice. So speaking of some of the programming, is any of it open to people who are visiting town and may not live in Northwest Arkansas?
Absolutely. So a lot of the events that are on the calendar in Northwest Arkansas, we provide services, which would be if it were a race, and let's say the wife was racing, but the father wants to do something else and not necessarily ride with the kids, then they can drop the kids off with us. We can program to do a morning session, an afternoon session, or combine both throughout the entire event, so that both parents can come into Bentonville or the state and enjoy an activity that they want to do, but necessarily also not be responsible for teaching their kids or taking their kids out on the trail. So we're more than happy to bring them into our community, welcome them with our group of kids, a lot of local kids, or sometimes it's just one-on-one. So
Nice.
That's a big entity that we've been successful with, and we started doing that with the rule of 3. And I think every event that is larger in scale, we're looking at providing that service for anybody that's coming in from out of town.
That's amazing. So currently, if I hear you correctly, you kind of look at the events that are already scheduled to take take place and you say, oh, this is a great time to provide this service and this way for a kid to enjoy their time on bikes with other people who are like them and might be similar to their age, or one-on-one, like you mentioned, while their parents get to go do something that the parents want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be our success factor with the events that you were mentioning or activities that you were mentioning, because that way the parents know that the kids are in good hands, and the local bike shops can benefit. Everybody around here as a community can pitch in so that folks can really see the services in Northwest Arkansas.
That's very unique. I'm not sure I've heard of anything like that in this area, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited for it, and the best part is the parents are starting to learn about it. So we have these magnets now that we started putting up in refrigerators, especially like Airbnbs, so that when they're in town, they're like, oh, here's an activity that we can introduce our kids to, but we don't have to be a part of, and there we go.
Perfect. I love that. And Nat, I know that Bike School Bentonville also caters to a little bit older students. Is that right?
Yeah, so really what we're trying to do is take that 7 to 13-year-old age group and develop them into shredders or riders that if they want to ride together, great. If they want to pursue the racing avenue and go explore trails elsewhere, then that's a great platform and avenue for us to say, here we go, here's the activities that we get to do outside of the state together as part of the programming. So we tease them with the 7 to 13-year-old group because they get to see what we call the academy riders. And then this year we're even going to expand on the academy because it was such a popular program to have it be a riding experience, but not necessarily just racing.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of exploring trails elsewhere, I saw that Bike School Bentonville took some students up to Winter Park in Colorado for nationals, right?
Yes, that was a blast. So basically we had 12 in the academy, which the academy is essentially kind of a 14-year-old or older, all the way up to, let's say, end of high school. And a rider that maybe has raced some NICA races before or is interested in racing NICA, we help prepare them for the NICA season. And then the big caveat this year was to get to attend nationals. So through USA Cycling, they got a USA Cycling license this year. We worked on here's what a start looks like. Here's how to pace yourself. We had the town series, so we did a lot of short tracks. So all of our academy riders, as well as the Oz development team, we did really good in nationals in the short track. It's a little bit easier format at altitude. So Winter Park Resort is 7,800 feet. Whew. And it was very, it's like breathing through a straw up in that Rocky Mountain air. It was very challenging for all the kids to race at that same level with the folks that live at altitude. Yeah. It's just, I would call it an unfair advantage for some of these kids. But we had a blast attending. We predominantly raced short track and cross country, but we also, some of our riders did the enduro.
Nice.
That was a 5-stage enduro on the mountain, so they get to do the gondola and get a massive amount of feet that dropped per basically every single of the 5 stages. Had very good gradients. And then some did the downhill and some did the dual slalom as well.
Awesome. Sounds like y'all had an amazing time up there.
It was a busy weekend.
Good.
Or busy week, pardon me.
Yeah. Nat, can you tell me what you hope the future of Bike School Bentonville is going to look like?
Yeah, I think this first year was a definitely groundbreaking year for us. We're looking not necessarily to expand, but more to enhance the experiences in terms of what type of experiences are these kids going to be doing with us, and how do we develop them as they continue and challenge them in their riding styles, in their ability to, whether it's endurance, whether it's just comfort on the bike. I think our long-term goals are to be as visible in the community and as approachable, but still have, when we're out there riding together, showcase what we are doing out here together in terms of being polite on the trails, doing trail stewardship, and basically doing some of these pieces that it's now time to address, because if we have hundreds of miles of trails in the area, it is our responsibility to also maintain them. So these are little pieces that we have done a trail day, but try and find out other ways to incorporate the stewardship elements, but also the buy-in, so that all these kids, maybe we get to build some features that they want to progress together on. in general, I think that the more that we can introduce the new rider and not necessarily make it a niche thing or a racing program, but just an experience to check out the trails or go explore Bella Vista, any of these pieces that we can offer, that's our next challenges together to program and put into our offerings and put that up on the website for folks.
I love that concept of stewardship and camaraderie and community involvement. I think that's so important, especially for the younger kids who will grow up and, have those values once they're a little older. I love that. That's so special.
We're excited. We had the weather challenged us this year, Stevie, a lot in the spring. So I think for us, a new piece would be how do we still hold some sort of riding? Because we do have some wet trails that we can ride during the wet conditions, but it's the enjoyment factor. So how do we kind of figure out how to work with Mother Nature on this? That's going to be one of our upcoming topics here. That's
definitely some sort of hurdle and hump to get over when we do have a couple trails, especially up in Bella Vista, that you can go ride when it's wet out or when, a lot of the trails are still draining. But it's a hard mental block to get over. You're like, it's wet, there's some mud, I'm a little dirty, and
sometimes it's temperatures.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, so it's not easy to motivate when it's very cold outside or just some of these storms that we got this spring. So I think Bike School Bentonville, we know that we belong here now, and we've built a really solid foundation. Next is just to keep on getting folks to check us out and have an experience, even if it's just a weekend or a 2-day or one single class, all the way up to the 10-week classes.
Awesome. So as if people couldn't get an idea already based off everything you've said, if there's a listener out there who says, wow, I'm coming to town X weekend, bringing my kids, not really sure if I want to do this or not, is there anything you would say to them just to give them that little bit extra encouragement?
Yeah, I think all they need to do is just reach out to us on the contact side of things, and we'll call them as long as they want to provide their phone number, or even set up like a Zoom call where the kids can meet a coach. The kids can look at what the actual ride would be like, where they're getting excited. So it's not just the parents selling them in on, hey, we're going to enroll you in this class. It may be something. We want the kids to be asking the parents for it. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can our listeners find you at Bike School Bentonville online and on social media?
Yeah, on social media, it's Bike School Bentonville, and basically the Instagram pages that we have highlight the experiences for the kids. We do a little bit of racing incorporated in that, so Vanessa Drummond has taken over the social media for the racing program with the Academy, so we've got a lot of fun, interesting pieces coming up during the NICA season with all 12 of our student athletes that have really put their time in. But the main thing is on the website, any person can get on and get a really good indicator visually of kind of what the programming looks like, but we're available by phone. So our phone numbers are on there. They can reach out and just basically ask us what opportunities are available, and we'll kind of custom build and we're finding that's the easiest thing currently for the out-of-towners is to find out when they're available, find a small window, whether it's 2 to 4 hours, and build the coaches. Our coaches have been very flexible, which is great. So now from here on out, it's a matter of aligning them with a coach that's available to take them on that experience for when they're in town.
Wonderful. And Nat, is there anything else you want to touch on today?
I just want to thank the community for letting Bike School Bentonville be a part of it, and our coaches. It wouldn't happen without our coaches, and I'm very excited. I was very nervous this year rolling into it with the amount of coaches that we would have enough business, but our coaches have done phenomenal. They've been making it what Kyla's and I's kind of dream positioning, already have almost a season under our belts thanks to the coaches.
That is truly wonderful to hear. I'm so glad. We have a pretty good community, don't we?
Unbelievable. So happy to be part of it.
I love it. Well, Nat, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of A New American Town podcast representing Bike School Bentonville. I'm Stevie from Oztrails. You can find Oztrails on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and online at oztrails.com. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you out on the trail soon.